your previous existence was in one dimension and another person's was in a different one that was similar, and then now you're here in this one, and they're this dimension is completely different than, or subtly different than the adjacent ones.
Sometime later, years later, I think, I was talking to my parents. I was like, you remember when I broke my arm? And they were like, you never broke your arm. You've never broken a bone ever.
That even goes into some weird territory, like, can we construct alternative memories from pieces of real memories? And brainwashing and stuff, man.
There are other songs where that phenomenon does happen. I think it's kind of calculated, where they like to break it up by taking you to a point where you expect something to happen and then do something else. And
yeah, musical blue balls, basically. And this might be the telephone booth kind of thing, but I seem to remember you telling me that you were sitting at a light and saw the door open on one of those. They do have doors. And the door opened and Alf jumped out and ran away. Welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we would love it if you would like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. It would really help us out a lot, and that would be great if you care about us. Otherwise, don't do it.
And if you love us a lot, you'll hang out to the end of the episode and hear the music that we write, and then you'll go over to patreon.com/KSMVidcast and pick it up. So, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I figured let's do something a little bit lighthearted. I think that'd be a good angle to go from.
Okay.
So, how about we talk about the Mandela Effect?
Oh yeah, like free Mandela.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is Nelson Mandela. So for those that don't know, if you've been kind of hiding under an internet rock, the effect comes. I believe the origin was that there were a whole bunch of people who thought Nelson Mandela died in the 80s or something like that in prison. Because he was in prison and he was the president of South Africa and stuff like that. He was a cool guy. But they thought he died in the 80s. And then when he finally did in 2013, a bunch of people were like, wait, he died in the 80s. And so they kind of thought there was some kind of weird other dimension kind of thing happening, time shifting or something. And so people started looking at other things, and I don't know, it just kind of took off from there, where people started noticing more and more things that were different in reality than what they remember them being. And so since the first, I think, recorded kind of thing like this was the thing with Nelson Mandela, they just called it the Mandela Effect.
Now, wasn't there the whole free Mandela thing going on like through the 80s and 90s though?
Yeah, I don't remember when all of that happened. It was probably in the 80s. But that's the thing. Like, despite all of this, despite all of the things and the newsworthy things around Mandela that happened, people still seriously believed that he died in the 80s. They remember that clearly. And this is the thing. So with the Mandela Effect, a lot of times people have very clear memories of something. and then you say, well, no, it's totally not like that. It's like this, and it's like unbelievable. A lot of things, quite a few have to do with branding. So, which I kind of understand, because we're assailed with advertising all the time. So you see brands and you see images and you hear jingles and whatnot.
You mix them up
So
a little bit in your head, right? Like,
yeah. So you kind of build up this repository of an image of something, and then when somebody presents a differing image or something, then it that's when you you have trouble believing it. I mean, there's a few of these things that really blew my mind. There's hundreds and hundreds of things like this, and I'm sure, because I have a little bit of a list, so we can go down them, and I'm sure some things will make people question reality.
yeah, I hadn't heard of this until, a little while ago. I think I heard of it from you actually, and maybe I am under an internet rock. Who knows? But yeah, I was looking it up, and some of the examples I saw, I was like, I never thought that, you know, peanut butter was called Jiffy or anything, but some
Yeah,
people could, because the Skippy peanut butter, like you were saying, people mix the brands up or something, and
yeah, and that's the thing. It's not the same for everybody, and this is where I kind of start to wonder, because people say, well, there's a lot of theories about what this effect is. Some people say there's some kind of um, dimension shifting going on, and all these. So let's say you live in a universe with infinite dimensions. Then there's people coming from, uh, say, your previous existence was in one dimension, and another person's was in a different one that was similar, and then now you're here in this one, and they're this dimension is completely different than, or subtly different than the adjacent ones. And then people, I don't know how they carry memories with them across dimensions, but maybe they do. And then when they notice these things, they're like, oh, this is different, and one person says, well, that's different, but this is the same. And so I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. But wait, where you didn't you have like a different colored shirt on a second ago?
what? No, no, I've always been wearing this one.
What the hell?
Maybe it's
No,
one of those like brown dress, green, blue dress things or whatever.
Yeah, that one. Oh man, I swear you were wearing it. I mean, I'm probably just going crazy. It's okay. I'll just have a little more beer.
Yeah, I mean, we do so many of these shows, and I only have so many shirts. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
I had a situation like that as a kid, actually. Um, I was, I don't know, 8, let's say.
mhm.
Um, I was at this like picnic, and there's a big open field, and I was out playing, I don't know, kicking a ball around or something. And out of nowhere, this kid on a bicycle wasn't watching where he was going. He runs me over with his bicycle.
Oh,
And I kind of like went in and out of consciousness. I have like memories of my parents freaking out, picking me up and driving me off the field. And then like, I remember driving up to a hospital. And then like the next thing I remember clearly was, uh, sitting at home, eating some cereal, watching TV with a cast on my arm.
huh.
And, sometime later, years later, I think, I was talking to my parents. I was like, you remember when I broke my arm? And they were like, you never broke your arm. You've never broken a bone ever.
What?
And I was like, well, then why was I wearing a cast? And they were like, you never had a cast either. Like,
Oh man, clearly your parents are part of the conspiracy
yep,
to cover this up.
yep.
They're lizard people or something like that. Yeah, man, that's weird. I've had a few experiences like that. I can't remember them off the top of my head right now, but and that's the thing that kind of makes me think about what this really would be. Not that I would completely dismiss a multidimensional theory. Like I think that's possible in some way. Maybe, maybe that's how it is.
Could be like
But
the deja vu thing too.
yeah, exactly. Ooh, we got to do one about deja vu. That would be a good one because I've had quite a few experiences with that.
Yeah, it's a pretty
Um,
good strip club.
yeah, I think it's I think it's a I just got that. Um, the I think it's probably more likely that the most likely cause of the Mandela effect is just that human memory is unreliable, and the way we store memories, similar things are stored kind of in a connected kind of way.
Mm.
Um, and when you recall a memory, maybe you get pieces of other similar memories, like things that are drawn up at the same time, kind of presented to you, like, oh, hey, is this what you're looking for? Like a Google search. And sometimes stuff is related, sometimes it's not. But if you take that entire search and you put it together, you get this kind of weird blended version of that memory. And so I think if you look at it from that standpoint, it kind of explains some of this. I mean, I'm no psychologist or anything, but that kind of seems to me like what's happening.
Yeah, well, from a neurology standpoint, if you go back to our episode on the connectome, where our guest Doug was talking about the Jennifer Aniston neuron, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So that there's like a specific neuron that fires when you see or think about Jennifer Aniston, and it has other neurons that fire up with it that make you think of things that are correlated with her, like the show Friends, or the dude who played Ross, everyone forgot his name,
Yeah.
and David Schwimmer. So it stands to reason that maybe people thought there was this movie about a genie with Sinbad in it because Sinbad's a comedian and Robin Williams is a comedian, and Robin Williams voiced the genie on Aladdin. So maybe those neurons were firing pretty close to each other and just created this image that kind of went viral before we really knew about
Well,
memes and things like that.
here's the thing. Like, we'll take that particular one because that's a really popular one. So I'll kind of just sum it up. That there's people have this belief that in the 90s there was a movie made by Sinbad, the comedian, called Shazam, um, and it never happened. It was never a movie. Now, uh, kind of in the same time frame, Shaq did a movie called Kazam, where he was a genie.
Oh.
But I don't think that's the source of this, because actually Sinbad hosted like a TV marathon of movies or something like that, and he had a kind of a genie attire on
Hmm.
during this time. So I actually think that's where it came from. And then because there was another genie movie in the same kind of time frame, people kind of pushed them together and thought it was the same thing. I mean, Shazam and Kazam,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's that whole like memory interconnection kind of thing. And it does make me question a lot of what I remember. Um,
Oh yeah.
but that's the thing, is like a lot of people very clearly remember this stuff. I have friends that I've told that to. I was like, oh yeah, remember that movie with Sinbad in the 90s with the genie? And they're like, oh, I totally remember that. And they're like, yeah, it didn't happen. And they're like, no, that actually happened. Yeah, I remember that. I remember watching it with my mom or something. And they seriously remember that. So that even goes into some weird territory. Like, can we construct alternative memories from pieces of real memories? And brainwashing and stuff, man. Okay, never mind.
If this
We're
were like some weird dimensional thing, can you imagine how terrible a movie Sinbad must have made that somebody wanted to go and erase it from our memories?
yeah. I don't know that he's a very good actor, but a great comedian. I'll say that. No, Shaq isn't much better as an actor. But yeah, so one of the ones that really gets people, and this gets me, the the kids book series and cartoon series, Berenstain Bears, is actually spelled Berenstain Bears, AIN,
Mhm.
and everybody remembers it as EIN. And that really like gets people going. I because I remember that, and I couldn't believe it.
I don't know that anyone's ever really like looked at it letter for letter and committed it to memory. I think the fact that Steen is far more ubiquitous a pronunciation and Stain isn't that far off, that, you know, I can see how that one is just like an oops thing, you know, like people mispronounce something. And I mean, that's how last names kind of change from spelling to spelling anyway, is
But yeah,
similar
that's true.
similar effect. And I don't know, that one doesn't surprise me too much. The Sinbad one's pretty weird,
That
but
is, yeah, it is weird because I kind of vaguely remember that. Um,
I guess I kind of do too. But yeah, you're right. It's probably the Shaq movie, because when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
yeah,
That's more
and
clear memory.
and actually, one thing about that movie, Kazam did not do very well. It was very unpopular and kind of flopped. So it didn't get a lot of exposure. So people probably saw like an ad for Kazam, and then maybe they happen to watch that marathon with Sinbad, and the two kind of blended together in their memories. I don't think it's that much of a leap.
Mm.
But there's more. Do you know that Tony the Tiger's nose is blue?
Hmm.
There are people who insist it's black. And I was pretty sure it was. And then when you see the picture of his nose blue, and you're like, that's not right. You see it all the time. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, some things really.
Is it like solid blue, or is it like the kind of blue where, like, you know how like in comic books, if somebody has black hair, they put little bits of blue in it to make it look like it's like shining?
It's
Or,
the tip part of the nose. The very end of it is blue. The whole entire face.
huh? Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. And when you say that, it's really weird. So how about something close to our hearts? Music. Um, what's the how does that Queen song, right? We Are the Champions.
Uh-huh.
So most people have the assumption that it ends of the world. Like they say, we are the champions of the world, right? And then it kind of just fades out. Well, that it doesn't end that way. It just says we are the champions, and that's the end of it.
Well, yes, but bands often um, change things up a little bit when they perform live. And if you watch like the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, where they basically duplicated exactly the Live Aid concert, he does indeed.
Awesome concert, by the way. Like
Yeah,
they
it was.
stole the show.
In
Yeah.
that particular concert, at least. I mean, I've never unfortunately seen Queen live, but in that particular concert, he did end it that way with a big epic of the world, and
Hmm.
and
Yeah, and
that's
maybe
probably
that's.
where people are getting that from.
I find that one a little bit tricky because, like, in when I hear that song, I always feel like it should end that way, and then it doesn't.
Mhm.
Yet, how many people like? How often do you listen to the or watch the Live Aid concert versus how many times you hear it on the radio? Like constantly, that song is constantly played on the radio, so you'd think that would have the most gravity compared to one or two viewings of Live Aid back in the '80s. So you know, I don't know. I get what you're saying. Like, I think that is probably the source of that.
Yeah.
And then having, because other choruses do actually say of the world, and then the last one says nothing. It just stops like after we are the champions.
Yep.
So people, the pattern is kind of broken at that point. So I think people are just naturally expecting it to end that way. And when they remember the song, most people don't remember music the way I do, which is note for note, including every single frequency and timbre of every single sound. I like it's a maddening mind state, let me tell you. But
Are you Brian Wilson now or
yeah,
something?
yeah. I had a friend that had a cassette deck, and we were listening to a cassette that we listened to all the time, and he put, he was just like playing the cassette, and I was like, your deck is running a little bit slow. And he said, well, sounds fine to me. And I'm like, no, it's running slow. I can totally tell. The pitch is off ever so slightly. The tempo's off ever so slightly. It's running slow. So like I can hear that stuff. And yeah. But even when I hear that song, I kind of expect it to do that. Of the world just would be kind of just such a perfect end to that song.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. But there are a lot of people that believe that. Do you have any others that because
I don't.
I actually like, I've been following this for a long time because it fascinates me, and I
Yeah,
love being
I can't
challenged.
think of any off the top of my head. There are other songs where that phenomenon does happen. I think it's kind of calculated, where they like to break it up by taking you to a point where you expect something to happen and then do something else, and
Yeah, musical blue balls, basically. Are we gonna get a channel strike for that? Uh, yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of movie quotes that people remember. They remember one way, and in fact, they're totally, well,
oh,
subtly
Star
different.
Wars.
Yeah, like in Forrest Gump, people think that he says life is like a box of chocolates, but he actually says life was like a box of chocolates.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe that, I have a feeling it's a lot of these things, these movie quotes and stuff, probably come from other people misquoting it and it kind of catching on, or TV shows misquoting it and people gaining their knowledge of the quote from there rather than the movie. It could be anything, but there's so many of them. I'm not going to go into all of them, but people think in Field of Dreams, they say if you build it, they will come. Right? That's what everybody remembers.
Uh-huh.
But actually, it says he will come,
Ah.
and so I mean, you can watch it, and it's totally different. Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father." Well, he actually said, "No, I am your father."
Yeah.
And that one kind of got me because I was like, well, that's kind of a weird way to say that. But
I remember that when I actually, like, when I first watched it, because I grew up in the 80s, so by the time I watched it, it was already pretty popular, and I had already heard people walking around going, "Luke, I am your father," and all that stuff, and then he's like, "I am your father," and I was like, "What? That's not what he says."
yeah, he says, "No, I am your father."
Hmm.
And because he's responding to what Luke had said before him, so there's no
Yeah,
reason for him to identify the person he's talking to. But that's how people remember it.
yeah,
And you can see it. I think there was a Family Guy clip or a Simpsons clip that said, "Luke, I am your father," and then Saturday Night Live said the same thing in one of their sketches. So it kind of like got into the psyche of the general public that it was, "Luke, I am your father." And,
mm,
at the time we didn't have streaming video on demand. Like not everybody had a copy of Empire Strikes Back, so they couldn't just go back and watch it. And it wasn't in the theaters. but these things were on TV and stuff, and so I think people just kind of the old version was supplanted by this new version, and it caught on, and everybody.
Well, it is George Lucas. He does that shit all the time.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we won't talk about the cantina scene with the stupid singing. Oh, never mind.
Or the fact that Jabba Hutt was a human in the first movie.
Yep. Oh yeah. Not that the one that they actually did was bad, because actually it was kind of cool. But yeah, good point. So how about this? Describe for me the logo for Fruit of the Loom.
Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was like fruit.
Yeah.
Grapes, I guess.
Yeah, there's fruit. I mean, is there anything else, like the structure of it? What does it look like?
I don't know, like the words "fruit of the loom," some grapes, leaves. That's about all I remember.
Was there a cornucopia, like
No,
with the fruit coming out?
I don't
Okay,
remember.
because a great number of people believe there was
Hmm.
cornucopia sitting there with like fruit coming out of it. But
Huh.
nope, it was just like you described. It was just a bunch of fruit, just kind of chilling.
Interesting.
So some people are gonna see this and be like, "No, it totally had a cornucopia." Yeah, it didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I might not be the right guy to ask because people will ask me like if you ask me what brand of toothpaste I use, I could not tell you. Like I don't pay attention to that crap.
Yeah. Some people do, and you know, if you watch a lot of TV and stuff, you have a lot of exposure to advertising, and branding is a big deal there. Like getting the logo into your head so that you recognize it, having a catchy jingle so that you know you feel good about it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I remember the Fruit of the Loom logo having a cornucopia, but it actually doesn't. So that was kind of weird.
Hmm.
There's a whole story behind is how that could have possibly happened. It's kind of fascinating, but that it's too long to go into. Um, so how about this? Did you know the Ford logo has a little curly Q on the end of the F?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have noticed that. Yeah.
a lot of people don't see. This is the thing. You're the guy that like is in this reality. You were born in this dimension. Yeah,
Always knew there was something a little off.
yeah. Like, wait, but wouldn't the ones who see things differently be the off ones, and you're just the regular guy? Interesting. So speaking of Star Wars, though, was C-3PO entirely gold?
See that one, yeah, I remember that being the case, except in the new trilogy.
Yeah, that was different.
Yeah.
So his right leg was silver. The bottom half of it was silver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, some people say it has to do with like camera angles and stuff in the movies, but I had the figure and stuff, and I don't remember the leg being silver, but apparently it was.
Yeah. Maybe when they painted the figure, they like perpetuated the idea that it was all gold. Like
That's true.
somebody just screwed up on the manufacturing line and like
Yep,
created
yeah.
the Mandela effect.
That could be. I have to actually like look for my figures and pull them up and see. Um, let's see. How about this? The 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 Kit Kat candy, the logo does not have a dash between Kit and Kat. It's just Kit Kat.
Hmm.
Some people think they will insist there is a dash in the middle, which would totally look right when you see the faked images of it. It looks like more right than the
Yeah.
one without it.
Huh.
But yeah, that
Huh.
yeah. So let's see. I got do you remember the Tiananmen Square incident?
Not totally. I wasn't 100% familiar with that when it was going on. So, what was different about that though?
Well, just for those who don't know, because there's probably youngsters out there that don't remember this, there was a protest in China, and a bunch of people were in the streets and stuff, and then the Chinese government sent in the military to kind of shut it down, and a bunch of tanks came down the street, and a guy stepped out from the protesters and just stood in front of the tanks and stopped the line of tanks, and they tried to go around him and all this stuff, and he just kept moving and blocking the tanks. And of course, the tank drivers, they didn't want to run over one of their people, but there are people who think that guy actually got run over by a tank, that a tank just steamed over him, but that didn't happen. So there's that one. Let's see. So the Mona Lisa is actually smiling.
Wait, people think she's not smiling?
Yeah. And this is the thing. I remember this. I remember this very clearly, that she had like a very neutral expression. And even like when I was in college and stuff in art appreciation, we were talking about that, how the expression was neutral and there was no, you could see it either way. And that's always been kind of a discussion in art and stuff like that, as I remember growing up. But apparently no, because you look at it today and yeah, she's totally smiling.
The thing I find most fascinating about the Mona Lisa is the horizon in the background is like up here on one side and down here on the other.
Yeah. I think this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is not reality.
Or he was just a crappy painter that day.
Well, yeah, that could be. Oh man. So how about Oscar Mayer? That's one that gets people. The spelling of the name. So everybody remember, well, not everybody, but a bunch of people remember it Meyer. Like
yeah, that's
Meyer.
That's probably because of Fred Meyer.
Yeah, but it's Mayer, like mayor. And yeah, that's because I remember that too, but it might be a Fred Meyer thing, possibly.
Yeah. Which is kind of regional actually, because Fred Meyers don't exist everywhere. Kroger's do, but, yeah, that is weird. I'd say largely, pretty much all of these probably could be explained by the strange way our memory works, but it's kind of funny how like people will jump to the extremes and say, well, there must be some wormhole opening up and sucking away our Sinbad movies.
Yeah, exactly. There's some kind of anomalous phenomenon, therefore aliens. Like it can't possibly be us. We can't possibly have any flaws. No. It's got to be aliens.
Yep.
That's how about this? Mickey Mouse, the classic Mickey Mouse character. Did he have suspenders? Like, think he had like the pants with the buttons on it and stuff. Did he have any suspenders on?
Pants?
Yeah.
Oh, he was wearing pants. Okay.
Yeah. This is one of the few cartoon characters wearing pants, actually.
He was decent.
Mm-hmm.
They had buttons on them as if there were suspenders, but I don't remember suspenders.
Well, ding, you win a point, because he never had suspenders. But a bunch of people think that's how it was.
I mean, those buttons are kind of weird without straps. That's what I always noticed. I was like, what the hell are those buttons for? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, what is that? That looks weird. Because now looking at it, when somebody says, well, Mickey Mouse doesn't have suspenders, and you look at the picture, it's like, well, what are those buttons for?
I mean, maybe they were suspenders. He just didn't have them buttoned, and he was using them as like a G-string or something.
Oh, man. Okay, yeah. Oh, man, that just got really dark.
That's not That's not Disney friendly.
No, we just went into Rule 34 territory right there. Oh God. Um, how about the Monopoly guy? Does he have a monocle or no monocle?
That one, I think I kind of remember there being a monocle, but
Yeah, there's no
also see
monocle.
it. I could also see it without, so it's
Yep.
hard
He
to
never
tell.
he never had one. Yeah. And I would get that. I think that probably has to do with the classical view of the big business tycoon from the 20s and 30s and stuff, the whole monocle image and stuff. So
Yeah.
people just kind of stick that in there because that's what they expect when there's somebody with a coat and a top hat and stuff with a big bag of money, of
Mhm.
course you have a monocle. But yeah, he didn't have one. and looking at the pictures without the or the edited pictures with the monocle, it looks really weird. But some people insist that that's how it was. So welcome to our dimension. Are you a fan or have you ever watched Pokemon or
No,
followed it at all?
but I've always wanted to go to that spot in Mexico, Macho Pikachu.
Yeah, Machu Picchu is what you're thinking of. That is
Oh,
a
okay.
cool place. Yeah, Pikachu.
It's probably not even in Mexico, is it? It's like
Yeah,
Argentina.
it's somewhere south of North America.
Yeah, I
It
don't
might
know.
be in Mexico. It's been a while since I've looked it up, but yeah, Machu Picchu is what that place is called. Um, I think it's South America somewhere. Um, no, yeah, Pikachu. So speaking of Pikachu, there's so he had a solid yellow tail in reality, but a bunch of people think that he had a little black tip at the end of his tail because his ears have a little black tip. So naturally, for some sort of uniformity, you would think that his tail would have a black tip, but it didn't. It was just solid yellow.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just not how Pokemon genetics works. So,
No, that's true. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of weird. And this one really gets me. So um because I remember this quite clearly, and there's no Mandela effect going on for me. But some people believe the Challenger disaster happened in 1984, not 1986, like it did.
hmm,
Yeah, that was a weird one. I'm like, I totally remember it was the same year that Chernobyl happened. That I remember clearly coming down to the auditorium and watching on the TV with the explosion and the news stuff, and they were talking about it because there was a teacher, uh, Kristen, I can't remember her name now. I probably can't even pronounce it. But yeah, there was a teacher on board, and so it was a big deal to schools and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
I
I
really,
remember when that happened too, and I was in Montessori, and yeah, in 1984, I would have been like 2 or something.
yeah, but some people think it happened in '84. So that one, I don't know about that one, but if anybody uh, has such memories, I'd like to
I
hear.
mean,
Uh,
was there another launch that year? Probably like
it,
one that maybe had a similar name
in '82 or '84.
in '84.
Well, I mean, there's the Challenger, there's the Columbia, the
It's the
Enter-
Dodge Charger.
yeah, yeah, the Enterprise, which was I think the test craft, the Endeavor. There were a whole bunch of them. But Columbia, maybe, but that nothing happened to that spacecraft until the 2000s when
Hmm.
it broke up during the reentry. So I don't know where people are getting that. That's kind of weird.
Huh.
Maybe there was a movie that came out in '84. Did Space Camp come out that time? I don't know.
I don't even
Um,
remember that movie.
oh, yeah. It actually is kind of a good movie, but it's fun. Um, I have a copy of it, but I'm not going down there to go get it and find out what year it happened. Um, how about this? How about this one? Curious George did not have a tail. So he's
Yeah,
a monkey, but he didn't have a tail.
right. Yeah, and that bugs me. It's like he's a damn ape. You
Yeah.
dirty damn ape.
You dirty apes. Oh, should I be smoking a cigar when I say that? Um, yeah.
I mean, either that or it was cropped, but
Yeah. No, in all the cartoons, he never had a tail.
yeah.
And it does bug me too, because he totally should have had a tail.
Yep.
Like, what gives? And maybe that one, I think that one is more of like a matter of expectation based on nature. Like, we all know they have tails, so why would this cartoon
Well,
version
actually,
not
we don't though. Like so many people mix up monkeys and apes.
have?
So I
Hmm.
don't know if that could really explain it.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe, but yeah, that's a weird one. Let's see. Looney Tunes, the cartoons. How do you spell that?
Looney
Mhm.
Tunes.
You got it right, but most people think it's Toons, like
Ah,
cartoons.
see, I learned at an early age to see a good opportunity for a play on words,
Yep.
and that's
Yeah.
how I honed my pun skills at a young age.
Yeah. And the reason I think it would be Tunes is because of Merry Melodies.
Hmm.
So that was kind of part of the intro, so it's Looney and then Tunes, and they flipped that around a little bit, like
Yep.
Looney having OO. Um, but yeah, a lot of people remember Toons, and I kind of feel like maybe that one's born out of Tiny Toons, because that was actually spelled Toons.
Oh, huh.
So
Yeah.
Tiny Toons was
Right.
spelled like cartoon style.
Yeah.
And so I think people are conflating those two things together, and because they are interconnected. Looney Tunes and Tiny Toons, it's like the kids of the characters and stuff like that. So I think they kind of just think that, well, naturally, the most recent thing I've seen when I was growing up was Tiny Toons, and it was spelled that way, so the other one must be spelled that way.
Can I just take a moment to say that Tiny Toons was actually a really good show?
It was totally good. Yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, that was pretty quality. Like that was a good testament to its predecessor, I think.
Oh, and yeah, and it wasn't just like a bunch of slapstick poop jokes and stuff like that. Like, it had wit.
Yeah,
It was intelligent, and but it was fun and funny at the same time. Like, it was, yeah, that was a great show.
yeah.
I love it.
I clearly remember one scene that just had me laughing my ass off for some reason. Like Hampton, somebody stole his clothes, and this tour bus went by, and the tour guide was like, "And to your left is a naked pig." I was I just thought that was so hilarious.
Does anybody say that about any other animal though? Like,
Right.
you go,
Well, like, shouldn't a pig be naked? I don't
well, exactly. I would be more surprised if they had clothes on.
know.
Like, now you see a pig wearing clothes. Like, that would be remarkable. But a naked pig, like, that's an everyday thing. That's funny. That's good. Nice twist. Oh yeah. So you know about Charles Lindbergh, right?
uh,
The pilot and stuff, and I think he was he.
it didn't go missing or something. Or
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, his
wait, the Lindbergh baby? Is that what this is about?
huh?
Is that a Lindbergh baby, or am I thinking of something else?
Well, it was his child, like younger, like maybe preteen age. I think I want to say like 10 or something like that. Was kidnapped
Oh,
for ransom, and most people believe that Lindbergh's kid was never found, but he was. Of course, they were dead. But that was a thing. Like, most people think it was an unsolved mystery, but it was totally solved in
Oh,
that regard.
huh.
Um, I don't know if they found the people who did it, but yeah, a lot of people think that the kid went missing and was never found, but that's not true.
Huh.
Um, okay, here, this one got me because this is actually the last one that I have on my list. I didn't want it to get a little, didn't want it to go too long. Um, where did Al Capone die?
Jeez, I actually have no idea.
Okay, so Al Capone, big gangster from the Prohibition era and stuff like that, arrested on tax fraud charges, put into Alcatraz and all that stuff. So where do you think he would have died?
Well, I guess Alcatraz. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what I thought, and that's what most people thought. No, he died in Florida,
Huh.
like in his home in Florida. He eventually was released and went back home, and then he died. Like, I don't remember what he died of. Probably cirrhosis or something like that. But
Wait, is he the one that there was like some conspiracy theory about his bones being buried under the Cubs stadium or something? Like,
no, that was a different one. That wasn't Capone. God, who was that? Oh man, we're
Scarface?
yeah. It was some kind of shifty thing, having to do with like a bunch of thugs. Yeah, I don't remember that one. Who
See,
was
my memory is like way beyond the Mandela effect. It's just messed up in other ways. Like,
yeah. Wait, didn't wasn't there something about Alf?
Alf.
Yeah, didn't you tell me a story about Alf, or is this another Mandela effect where I'm remembering you telling me about something that never happened to you? Like Alf jumping out of a thing in the street corner or something?
Oh, wait
Yeah,
a minute.
yeah.
I do vaguely remember something about that. Yeah, like I used to think I actually don't remember the details of this, but it vaguely like triggered a memory. So the little boxes that control the traffic lights or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, I was a little kid and I was looking at that box and I was like, what's that box? And my dad was like, oh, that controls the traffic lights. And I was like, well, is there someone in there like throwing the switches? And he was like, yeah, a little midget sits in there. And I think I must have like decided that maybe it was Alf or something.
Why not?
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh man.
could have been R2D2 just as easily, or
Yeah, and this might be the telephone booth kind of thing, but I seem to remember you telling me that you were sitting at a light and saw the door open on one of those. They do have doors,
Mhm.
and the door opened, and Alf jumped out and ran away.
I have seen some weird things. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I think that's probably a good point to end it on. Like,
Yeah.
that was pretty amusing. Now, this is a really interesting subject. Whether it's an interdimensional thing or a brain, you know, twitch anomaly kind of glitchy thing or something like that, it's still interesting. Um, and I love researching it and talking about it and thinking about it and being mind blown by things that I thought were one way but are not. Um, and I'm willing to accept that. I think there are flaws in the way that we remember things. But I'd like to hear what other people have to say, other Mandela effects that maybe we didn't cover, um, or weird things like Alf jumping out of a traffic light control box or something like that. Those kinds of stories would be good. Um, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for deep sink diving with us into the weird and creepy world of the Mandela effect.
Ooh. check out the song and